All right, and we're back again with another Legacy Octagon. Welcome, everybody, as Team Lotus Box presents to you another 8-man event. $100 to first place, $20 buy-in, single elimination, so only the best players will win this one. Zan, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Sitting in my kitchen today.
Yeah, I can tell you look a little bit different here. We've got some pretty cool things going on here. So we're actually working with our sponsors today, Cardboard Life, to try out some new features, check out some new things going on here. So, you'll notice a little bit of difference here just in terms of our overlay and things like that. Speaking of Cardboard Live, our first feature match is going to be kind of interesting regarding that. But I'm kind of interested. So walk me through this week so far and what we've gone through and like some of the exciting things that we've seen, in terms of like Octagon scheduling and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is our third Octagon this week. We played Vintage, where humans took it down. That was absolutely insane. And then we had Ali take down our historic event with a sweet, sweet Grixis Arcanist pile. And then now we are about to play our first Legacy one of the week. And I'm super excited to play Legacy because I think it's the best format right now.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun playing. I've had a lot of fun watching Legacy. Playing Legacy lately. I found a couple new decks. There's a lot of new cards coming out here. I want to double check and see like just like the power level of cards like Hull Breacher and like Opposition Agent and things like that. And as a blue mage, I want to make sure that I'm also like making like maximizing on all that sort of stuff here. So yeah, I want to start by taking a look at the first deck of tonight here. And this is an interesting list that is being brought to you by the trophy leader, Negator77, who just has done an astounding job with just like the trophy count and things like that. Who right now I think Tom is actually at about 40 plus trophies, like miles ahead. Talk to me a
God.
little bit about this deck list.
Yeah, so James is piloting it today, and yeah, I mean inspiration from Negator. I've actually played against Negator before, playing this deck with DNT, and it's been hella close. Um, so yeah, I mean this deck, all it does is it disrupts you just for a time being, so you can make a 20/20 and get through. The blue splash is super interesting and really catches you off guard if you're playing with not an open deck list, like playing around main deck Flusterstorm or Stifle. That is just like really really tough to do in a matchup like this. So yeah, I mean I think this is like one of the most creative decks I've seen in Legacy, and I'm not surprised Negator is the one who came up with it.
Yeah, I think this is like an homage to like one of the older deck lists that we saw from Tom. When we had used to have like Flusterstorms and the Stifles. Those are pretty iconic. We also had Brainstorm as well. Um,
Oh yeah.
and now I think what's interesting to me is that we've cut the Brainstorms, given like Oko, Ice Fang, and the current landscape of the Legacy format. We can't really like afford to play these cards. This list is still super hyper efficient, and I'm excited to see how it's going to do. On the other side of the table, I mean, this is not a surprise to anybody, right? What do we got here?
I mean, we have four color Snoko. I mean, this is one of the premier decks of Legacy. I mean, you and I were both playing Snoko for a while, but this is the Miracles version with Terminus, and I think Terminus is really well positioned. I mean, as you can tell, DNT has been crushing, so creature strategies are back in the fold. And what better card to play than Terminus on top of your deck, flipping it and paying 1 mana to get rid of your opponent's whole board.
Yeah, for sure here. And one thing that was really interesting to me was that we sort of saw Snow get beat up a lot by combo. I really like the adaptation from blue control from this pile or from that pile to this pile. And it looks like the players might be ready to go here as we go in here. But like I want to ask you real quick, Zan, who do you think is actually favored in this matchup? Dark Depths against not humans, but actually uh, miracles.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Dark Depths deck lines up really well against this Miracles list, unless they find Miracles, and uh, honestly just comes down to mulligans. But I would say if both decks are operating on their best axes, then Rainbow Depths is certainly favored.
Yeah, I gotta say that. Okay, so we're gonna mulligan that hand that doesn't have any green or black sources. I guess there was an Elvish Spirit Guide, but that's not really what you want to start here. This hand on the other side though looks very strong here. Double discard, Sylvan Scrying to find another piece, but you also just naturally have everything here. Is this a mulligan to 5? Yeah, okay, actually, never mind. It does look like a mulligan to 5 here, which means that we might see the Sylvan Scrying also go to the graveyard, but keeping double discard spell is so powerful here because you not only get to take away the first piece of interaction in Swords to Plowshares, but even the second one. So I think James' hand is super strong despite, the mulligan to 5 here. And on the other side of the table, it looks like Derek is going to lead with an Arkham's Astrolabe. This hand looks pretty promising too. You got mana, you got, counter magic in the form of Force of Negation, and then you even have that selection in Ponder.
Yeah, I mean, a mulligan down to 5, like I said, different amount of resources on both sides, but James is on the draw, so he's going to be able to pick up that extra land source, which is going to enable the combo, and then 2 disruption spells. That's all you need. And I mean, lands are uncounterable, so I don't know what this force is really going to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly, right? And this is kind of one of the reasons why a deck like Turbo Depths is can afford to mulligan down to 5 very aggressively in game 1 is because there's so few pieces of interaction that actually matter in this matchup, right? Like, this Force of Negation is not doing anything. The Uro is going to gain some life. It's going to be a bit of a headache. But, other cards like, I don't know, just like anything that doesn't get rid of the 2020 exactly, or maybe the Dark Depths as it makes the 2020, is something that you can largely ignore. Now, obviously, like Oko and Uro are kind of a big deal here in this Evolve format that we have. Uro can put you above 20 life, make you have to pay, make 2 attacks connect with the Merit Lodge, which means that Jace can come down and maybe unsummon the Merit Lodge, or you could see something like Oko elk it out, but you get to ignore so many different things, especially like in other matchups where your opponent might be playing ground creatures like, like Dreadhorde Arcanist or like heaven forbid Tarmogoyf, those kind of things. Like this is why this deck is very powerful. And 2 pieces of interaction, a little bit scary here, but I think James is still in a pretty good position to maybe steal a game 1 on a mulligan 5.
No, definitely. But I mean, there's still a large battle that needs to be fought here. As you can tell, a brainstorm was cast. It gets to hide a couple of little tools, but a combination of Uro and Jace are the exact combination of cards you need to deal with a Dark Depths, because you're gonna survive. You get to play Jace and you get to bounce it, but the Jace is pretty face up. So I'm super interested to see how the rest of this game plays out.
Yeah, and one thing that's kind of interesting here is to see how the discard suite works out of the Rainbow Depths deck. I think there's 4 copies of Thoughtseize, but then you have a mix of 2 Inquisition and 2 Duress here, and that does add a little bit of volatility to what you've got going on. Now, in this exact situation, there's a little bit of a punish because the Jace, the Mind Sculptor, is going to go unchecked here. Inquisition can't take it, right? Because it's Jace's CMC4. You kind of wish those were Thoughtseizes here, but I still sort of see. I mean, like the deck building constraint here is that you want to have like bits of pieces against every just like the wide variety of the format. Unfortunately, it actually just looks like Uro's going to come down here and cause some trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Uro coming down this turn is pretty devastating because the full 20 is not going to be able to do much. Or I mean, we see a Jace here. I mean, 21 is still a saved life total.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Wow. All right. So, I mean, Jace brainstorms. It is quite possible that a 2020 is made and it ends up killing Jace, but can be punished by this Oko.
Yeah, this is it's tricky, right? So 21 is like the special number here. We're going to see if Derek ends up fetching or not to go down to 20. I mean, the plan is pretty face up right now. There's a Mana Confluence and Thespian Stage, and if another land comes down, then you know that the 2020 can come into play here. Duress is a pretty solid draw here from James's side. We'll be able to get rid of the Oko. This is going to be kind of interesting to see whether you actually spend this turn making the 2020 or whether you spend this turn, still in this like sort of step up process here. I think I like playing the Duress on this board state because you're not going to be able to kill your opponent, and then if they do put the Oko down, then you suddenly lose a lot of your well, everything, honestly. You're pretty all in on this one singular Thespian Stage / Dark Depths on this exact board state. So maybe give it a couple extra draw steps and hope to find like another something that might be able to get you there. Like, for example, imagine if you top deck like a Vampire Hex Mage, that would be so good.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Vampire X Mage. The other mode is kill planeswalkers.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize how good that card is. On a bunch of different accesses. I mean, you can even get rid of Chalice counters. The card is so versatile and one of my favorite cards in a shell like this.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, cool. So moving forward, there's the Swords to Plowshares. Okay, that's pretty good here. That is going to
I
strictly stop.
I mean, that's probably game over. I mean, this Force of Negation is waiting for. These Force of Negations are just waiting for spells to meet. Um, and I mean, James is only going to be drawing one card a turn. It's going to be hard to get through double Force, Jace, plus Path. Yeah, I would say this game is over. It's going to take more than a miracle for James to get out of the situation. I would say a disconnect is is what,
Mm-hmm.
what, what would be needed.
Yeah, and I mean here I expect to see the Uro maybe come back into play now. You've got Astrolabe to filter or make your mana perfect, and Mystic Sanctuary going to come down here, putting a Ponder on top most likely. We'll see what happens there. But I mean, yeah, like the longer the game goes in this exact situation where Jace is active, I mean, we already see like Jace just went upstairs, ticked up on James, and that's not a good sign, right? Like if your opponent takes the die if your opponent takes the die off 3 and starts moving it upwards, you probably are dead on the spot right there, just because that means they have everything that they need to survive a couple turns. I mean, with only 3 cards in hand, like you might say maybe I can beat this, but these 3 cards are really really good cards. 4 cards now with the Uro.
Yeah, I mean, you're just so far ahead. I don't see any possibility of James getting out of this situation. But you should always play to all of your outs and play as long as you can because the clock actually matters in this event. Because you're going to be playing 3 matches. If you're able to go on to the next round just because your opponent timed out and didn't play it efficiently, it could be the difference.
Yeah.
So I love watching players play it out.
Yep.
Um, so while we watch the end of this game, what did you have for lunch?
Today, okay, so you know how we were talking about Taco Bell the other day? Well, today I actually made my own burritos, and they were I call them more like fajita-esque. They were pretty good here. Like it's just like chicken, cheese, guac, just like the whole shindig. Put a little bit of cilantro in it too. Did you do anything cool?
I just had Chipotle.
Oh, okay, nice, vibing. Okay.
Yeah, I just
Um,
had Chipotle. No meat though. No meat. Just pretty basic. Uh, what is it called again? It's like that tofu mix.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like
Well, I had
sofritos. Is that what it is?
yeah, sofritas. And I got what do you call it? Some guac in it. You got to get the guac. I think Chipotle guac is some of the best guac out there.
Agreed. Wait, okay, so I'm just taking a look here right now. Okay, so the board state has sort of gotten worse, from James's side here as we see Sylvan Library now coming down. Derek is at 25 life. I mean, there's like a very slight, small glimmer of hope here, perhaps for James, where the Oko is still gonna have to. Sorry, the Uro is still gonna have to attack 6 times, like 5 more times, in order to get there. And
But if it was just a giant that was swinging for 6, there would be a chance. But you're drawing an extra card off of Earl. You're Sylvan Librarying every single turn. You're also brainstorming for free every single turn. This has got to be past the point of redemption.
yeah, and I gotta wonder here, like what actually went wrong, right? I guess maybe the actual answer to what went wrong was the mulligan to 5. We had a 5 that was like super slow here. Like I feel like the hands that really, really, really cause problems are the ones that just kill you as fast as like turn 2. Like the
Yeah, but I would say like James kept a lot of the resiliency in the hand, like the stuff that is likely to win the game pretty immediately and didn't keep any of the stuff that gave him the explosive power, like the Lotus Petal and stuff like that. There was an option of trying to go Inquisition into a 2021 turn earlier, but as we saw, I mean, there was just a perfect sequence of draws that were drawn that put James in a bad spot. And I mean, who knows? Maybe the Lotus Petal would have been countered by the Force of Negation. So I realistically think that there wasn't a real window for James to win this game. The draws were just way too good.
Absolutely. And I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's video is cardboard.live. Be sure to check out the stream live at alpha.cardboard.live/Team Lotusbox. I hope I got that link right. Thank you, Wilson and James. I'm rooting for you guys, in spirit here for sure. But this game, maybe not so much because it looks quite over as, Teferi's going to come down too. Teferi is kind of a haymaker in this matchup because it's really good at shutting down cards like Not of This World. It's really good at shutting down cards like Instant Speed crop rotations. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up there as the Jace is close to ultimating. Talk to me about sideboarding, right? Because I feel like going from game 1 to game 2 and 3, this is where, we're going to see the Dark Depths deck just fully in motion here. Because looking at the sideboard, there's a lot of really, really good cards for James.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I mean, you get Sylvan Safekeeper, which is one of the most insane cards. One of the hardest cards to beat. So in order to deal with both threats, you're really going to be relying on your Terminuses. But besides that, I mean, getting more copies of Flusterstorms, getting Veils, just puts you in a spot where you're going to be paying, on average, a lot less mana for your for protecting your combo. And yeah, I mean, I think that post board it just gets harder and harder.
Yeah, I'm also kind of curious to see like whether we might bring in something like Veil of Summer in this matchup just to like stop maybe like Force of Will. Veil of Summer is not very good against like the plows, which is the primary access. What is good against the plow is something like Flusterstorm. I also wouldn't be surprised to see something like Surgical Extraction come in. I think that would be kind of cool, right? Being able to like target all the copies of plow. Now, I don't think the strategy works nearly as well as it used to, like back in the day, because there are a diversity of threats now that you have to handle out of these decks, like just like, like Uro's going to come down and gain a bunch of life. Oko's there to elk the Merit Lodge, right? Like just tagging the plows isn't necessarily going to be enough here. So we'll see how the boarding process eventually works here. I think it's going to be between the cards Sylvan Safekeeper, Surgical Extraction, and Flusterstorm. On the other side of the table, though, Zan, walk me through this. Now, we just saw the Tundra Control deck do a pretty, dapper dance around the Merit Lodge, but seems like there's some pretty good cards we want in this matchup, too.
Yeah, I mean, you get Blood Moon with the way Blood Moon works now. I mean, if it's able to be Abrupt Decayed, you can make a 20/20. I like that there's like one copy of it, which makes it a lot harder for some of these decks when you're playing like a one of to like board in the right amount of Abrupt Decays against an effect like that. And then I mean, you have an extra copy of Terminus. You have Surgical. You even have a Mirran Crusader, which can pretty much get through James's entire deck for some fast beats if there's a fast clock needed. But honestly, it's just going to be a more redundant deck post board.
Gotcha. And let's take a look at this list here. We've got Urborg, we've got Thespian Stage, Lotus Petals, Sylvan Scrying to pick up a copy of Dark Depths, and then also Not of This World as a piece of interaction. Now, we don't have green mana except through the Lotus Petal. Do you keep this hand?
I think you definitely keep this hand because Urborg makes it so that you don't need another. You only need Thespian Stage, Dark Depths, and Urborg to make your Merit Lodge. So, yeah, I mean, I love being able to cast the Sylvan Scrying and then making a 20/20 almost immediately.
Yeah, and I think with Not of This World in your hand as well, like this is, at this rate, I think it's looking like a turn 3 with backup, or maybe like a turn 4, depending on how you look at it, which I think is good, fine. For the situation, you've also got cards like Stifle, maybe to give you a little bit of extra protection. Like for example, Stifle lines up really, really well on, hey, Oko tick up elk your thing, or Jace down tick bounce your thing, right? So it's definitely like got some more play now. And okay, I think I understand this, right? Wait, actually, I don't know. Do you like this? Just passing the turn here, holding up the Stifle, or would you have played the Sylvan Scrying?
I don't think I would play the Sylvan Scrying. I like this play. I think shows a lot of it shows a lot of discipline,
Okay.
and I think I'm cool with that. Um,
Interesting here. So now we're going to see Sylvan Scrying on the stack. A little bit of a pause as Derek decides whether or not to force this. And Jace, number 2, is going to go down here. And, just like that, it looks like James is suddenly out of gas here. No Dark Depths yet to make a 2020, but we will deploy a Lotus Petal and a Thespian stage here. So, just a couple clutch draws, and then, we might just have it.
no, for sure. I mean, the I get why James waited, and that it was mainly because you just want to take an extra draw step to try to hit a discard spell to protect that Sylvan Scrying. Um, so yeah, I mean I agree with the play that was made. This Icebane Quaddle though is going to be a really scary and annoying card.
Yeah, Icebane Quaddle just being a flash flyer that can block Narret Lodge is kind of annoying. Now, fortunately, there are cards that exist in the deck like Sagiri Step to give the 2020 avatar protection from, whatever color. Notably, though, Sagiri Step doesn't give you protection from colorless, so if there is something like a Ornithopter in play, you kind of just have to attack through it, which I personally find very funny. But yeah, at this point, it looks like the roll has certainly been slowed here from James's side as we see an end step Brainstorm find a copy of many, many lands.
Yeah, but thank God there's a fetch on the field, and those lands are going bye-bye.
Oh my goodness. Okay, check that out. That's definitely a gotcha moment right there. Stifle is going to peg one of the Misty Rainforest, and the reason that this is so scary is because now Derek is priced into drawing the lands that they didn't want to draw earlier. And I mean, honestly, like given this board state, like fortunately there's nothing really going on from James's side. But if James had any sort of pressure, like the last position you want to be in is drawing dead cards in a matchup where you could just die on the spot.
Of course, and I think this was a bit of a tilt moment on Derek's part because he did have the Flooded Strand and could have played the Flooded Strand to try and fetch again. But Stifle is such a scary card, you just want to dodge ever getting stifled a second time.
Oh, wow. Okay, there's the Blood Moon.
There is the Blood Moon.
This could just end the game on the spot here, because as far as I recall here, I did not actually see James board in any copies of Abrupt Decay here. I wonder if it's lights out at this point then.
Yeah, I mean James still has a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And if he did bring in Abrupt Decay, then he has a lot of turns.
Okay.
Ooh.
So this is Sylvan Safekeeper. I imagine that the Hex Mage is going to come down here now and use the secret mode that you were talking about to get rid of the Jace the Mind Sculptor. Now, unfortunately, that might not be enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be enough. And if there are no Abrupt Decays in James's deck, it is certainly game over, and I'm sure that he's going to be down to call it game over.
Yeah, so Sylvan Safekeeper going to come into play now here. And I mean, like you mentioned, like Safekeeper is a pretty good draw, pretty good card in general in this sort of strategy. It really does allow you to go long just by virtue of being able to, just play your combo out, much later in the game here. And then you can use all the excess lands to sort of protect yourself from the bevy of like Swords to Plowshares that you anticipate your opponent is going to like sort of huddle up on. So in this situation, unfortunately, I mean, you don't have the 2020, but like just imagine here if Derek slams this Blood Moon, like it's certainly lights out.
Yeah, I mean it certainly lights out, but I mean, again, Derek was just stifled, and if he gets stifled again, um, it's definitely gonna feel bad. And so, I mean, I think this is the safer play, and I'm not opposed to it. I mean, James now has a lot of outs to get out of
Oh my God.
situations.
And I'm gonna say
Oh
something
my
right here,
goodness.
Zan. I'm gonna say something right here. This is fantastic, right? Because I think Derek had the chance to win the game right here on the spot. Like you mentioned, right? This could be a safer line. Just get over 20 life. What's the worst that could happen? Oko's also an answer. I've got the blocker, but there's so much interaction post board out of James's deck in the form of extra Flusterstorms, the Knot of the Worlds, and even now this third crop rotation that it's like this is actually just like a hard punish for what should have been a wrapped up game.
No, for sure. I mean, this is brutal, and I mean, it's tough, right? It's tough for the control player not to be in a not controlling spot, right? Like they're still at 18 life, and they have this Ice Bank Quarrel, they have this Oko. It's it feels safer to not play the Blood Moon
Well, okay.
because
Here's one thing that I want to point out, though, Zan. Right,
Mhm.
is that you'll notice that Blood Moon is very good at turning off Dark Depths, right? Just by virtue of what it does. But it also turns out that Blood Moon is good at turning off Tropical Island, Tundra, and Mystic Sanctuary, right? So perhaps the reason we're not actually deploying the Blood Moon right now is because we think it's gonna like shut down our own mana base a bit too hard. I think if Derek had like full 2020 vision and saw exactly how James sideboarded, I think it would have been a home run slam. Just put that Blood Moon into play, and then you just like wait it out. Eventually, you will draw your land before you die, kind of deal. That makes a lot more sense actually now, so I take it back. I understand why we're playing the Oko in this exact board state is because, our mana base actually, the way we fetched or the way the cards were dealt to us is we couldn't, sort of keep it available here. Um,
Well, this Terminus draw is a pretty incredible draw with Sylvan Library. So we may see a situation where um, it's not over just yet.
yeah, that's a really good point here. Terminus is one of the few ways to get around cards like Not of This World, and with not that much Storm built up for Flusterstorm, you could just easily resolve that Terminus. So
This this game is about to be insane. It's about to be so nutty because you make a 2020 here, but then you can go to 21 with the food token, even if you can get past the Ice Fang Quaddle. So they're just like, okay, well, a 3-3 was made, so there's a couple things out the window. Anything can happen. Everything is on the table. James could win the game next turn.
yeah, which is kind of terrifying to be totally honest. Now, keeping in mind though here, look at the way that Derek is playing this out. There's Terminus on top of the deck. We have a copy of Wilt in hand.
So you can cycle.
Yes.
But don't forget that all of that costs a lot of mana.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Flusterstorm. So this is gonna be a battle.
So let's
James has made this non-game into a game.
right? Yeah, and I'm actually so excited about that because that's just like, I mean, Legacy is a punishing format for sure, right? Like you have like the cards are so sometimes like individually so powerful that like not maximizing everything, you could easily lose a game, especially when you're playing decks that are as delicate as Rainbow Depths or Miracles. We're gonna see the upkeep cycle into Terminus here. That's gonna put the what is it? What do we have here? Oh wow, wait, actually, Zan, walk me through this. What's about to happen here, right? So Terminus is gonna go on the stack here, but then
And Flusterstorm does counter it, right? Because there's gonna be 2 spells on the stack.
so Wilt
Flusterstorm.
cycling doesn't actually put a storm count on the stack or doesn't add to the storm count. So that just means that right now the Terminus will go on the stack. That would be the first spell cast. The Flusterstorm comes up afterwards. That's 2 spells. So Derek would just have to pay 2 life here. And the sad part is that you're not even able to use the Knot of This World here to give your Merit Lodge something like protection.
Yeah.
Oh man. And that's so brutal here.
And that's game. How does Not of This World work? Is it opponent?
It says counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. So Terminus isn't targeting anything, and therefore you can't counter
Oh, the reason
Terminus.
why the reason why I was asking was because maybe it's counter ability, and if it was counter ability, then you could sack your land to target your 2020 with Sylvan Safekeeper and try to counter that.
Okay, okay, yeah. Or just like even
Yeah,
like stifle the miracle trigger or something like that, right? There's a number of things that could be done. So
for sure. But I mean, yep, this game is over, and I mean, those were some pretty crazy sequence of draws, right? But in hindsight, even if it was a Brainstorm would have done the same thing because Wilt is cycling for 2 and Brainstorm is casting for 1.
yeah, I think one thing that I will mention though is that this duress that just came off the top for James was absolutely clutch, right? Because otherwise, Derek was actually going to just slam the Blood Moon. That would have actually just been lights out. But now James has a sliver of a chance. If James can just pick up like just a little bit of the combo, or even like a Vampire Hex Mage to get rid of that Oko, that would
Uh,
also be very
oh yeah,
good.
yeah.
And
That's actually true. You got me there. For sure. I mean, if you can get rid of this Oko, then there's some chance.
some chance for sure here. But Veil of Summer, Swords to Plowshares, and a Wilt off the top from the Sylvan Library. That has to be probably the scariest 3 cards that Derek could have drawn on this board. My goodness. And now we're just getting Force Negation to put it on top just to make sure that we have everything covered. We might have just entered hard control mode again here where it's basically lost
Yeah.
for James.
I mean, Sylvan Safekeeper here is not the answer. It's bare. At this point, it's just worse than an elk.
Okay. Now that's interesting. Going for the Sylvan Safekeeper here with the Swords to Plowshares. We've used both Mystic Sanctuaries, so we're just going to keep track of like what resources we do have and don't have. And in this exact instance, it looks like we're going to sacrifice the Sylvan Safekeeper sacrifice the Gemstone Mine to keep the Sylvan Safekeeper around. And this is a mana denial strategy that I really like coming out from the cards that Derek has, right? It just says that, look, you have 2 permanents in play now. You cannot win this game. I'm drawing this Force of Negation. GG's, good sir. You have nothing.
Yep. And you really only see this from a deck like Depths, where you're trying to use every bit of card that you have on the battlefield as a resource. And I really like this type of gameplay. Whenever I'm trying to build decks, I'm always trying to use every part of my deck, like including um like the graveyard. Like for example, whenever I played Burn strategy, I always try to play Grim Lavamancer because I was like, oh, that's a resource I'm not using. I'm not using my graveyard for anything. I want to maximize that. And Dark Depths / Rainbow Depths does a really good job at maximizing in different aspects.
Yeah, I gotta say, like I feel like the game was actually close. Game 2 was actually extremely close, but that clutch terminus that came in basically the very last turn. So basically, the way the game worked, right, was that like James had a very fast kill, and then there was a very good Force of Negation. So that's the first back and forth move. And then there was a Blood Moon that was drawn, but then we went for the Oko, and then we were able to set up for a lethal 2020. It just kept going back and forth and back and forth, and then finally the last I guess Jenga block to topple the tower or whatever was just like that Brainstorm finding the terminus to synergize alongside the Wilt. There it was really beautiful. I think just from a Tundra perspective, I'm really glad to see the game play out this way. Now, obviously, like I think the Dark Depths deck is super scary, and I think a lot of things have to go right for any deck to be able to beat it, or a lot of things have to go wrong from the depth side, like we saw in Game 1 off that mulligan to 5.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the like your deck has to naturally line up well in a variety of different ways, and I think I think that a deck like Death and Taxes is like one of the few decks that lines up well against a strategy like that. Other than that, I don't. The majority of decks do not line up well against it, right? Like the clauses are like you need to be operating on the same like mana that both decks are spending. You want to operate on the flying axis. You want to operate on being above 20 life total. Like not even Delver does that at a great rate. I also think that it helps that you have if you have Wasteland and Ports, stuff like that does a really good job against a low mana deck.
Gotcha. So right now, I'm going to see if I can get together another feature match, as we have, I think, one more match left here to go through. So it looks like David Goldfarb might still be playing against Martin Verbeek. I'm kind of curious here. This matchup is Jeskai Control against Grixis Delver. What we could do in the meantime, at least, is maybe take a look at the deck list. I'd like to do that for sure here. So is there anyone that like seems especially interesting to you? Do you want to look at the Jeskai Control list, or would you rather look at the Grixis Delver deck?
I mean, Grixis Delver sounds sweet. I'm down to check out Grixis.
All right, let's do that real quick there, because I want to see what we got going on here before we get into it real quick. So this is the Grixis Delver deck list, and this is an archetype that you don't really see nowadays, with Rug Delver being like the de facto Delver deck here. You've played a decent chunk of Grixis Delver, although it was like certainly in a different era, right? And with certain spicy cards, if I may. How do you feel about this list? What do you like about it?
I definitely like the Arcanist. I think Arcanist is like the future of Delver decks. It's just like a 2-mana threat that incorporates all the best things that you've cast and just doubles it. Right? So I love that aspect. There's a couple of Nombos here: Bedlam Reveler, Gurmag Angler, and Arcanist. All three of those cards don't work well with each other. So I'm kind of surprised in seeing cards like that. But I mean, I do like the one of Brazen Borrower. It would have definitely been good against any depth/land strategy that we would have seen. But yeah, whenever I take a look at a deck like this, I always ask myself, why would I play this deck over playing the current most popular version of Delver, which is Rug Delver. Um, yeah, and basically Rug Delver getting access to Veil and Oko. I think those are some of the most powerful effects in the format, and I don't feel like this Grixis list has done a great job convincing me why I should be playing black over green.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm looking at the list right now, and I see the Gurmag Angler's kind of hot. The Bedlam Revels are kind of cool. Maybe Cling to Dust, Fatal Push, and actually, I don't even see Thoughtseize in the main deck here, right? So perhaps you're thinking like maybe there's some sideboard cards that we can leverage. Like there's Painful Truths and Plague Engineer. Those are some pretty iconic cards in the history of Delver. I gotta wonder. You might be right about that. I think I do prefer Rug Delver just currently. Like, Oko just adds so much to the table here. But I do like the Young Pyromancers. I like the ability to go wide with your Creature Suite. And then otherwise, it just seems like this is certainly a much more like tempo-oriented list. So there's a lot more to gain and a lot more to lose if things go well or badly, respectively. On the other side, though, I want to see like the matchup that we might be looking at here is against Sharkstill. That's cool.
Oh, Sharkstill. This is a super sweet deck. I thought we were looking at a more regular Jeskai control deck, but I love this. I think this is a really really cool deck. David has always performed well whenever I've seen him play. He actually was on Edgar Magalhaes, who's on Team Lotus Box's team when they both won a team Grand Prix together. I think it was Team Limited. I'm not positive what format it was, but really solid player. Really unique deck choice. I haven't seen Standstill in a really long time.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive into the match here. We're going to be switching up the UI just a little bit as I catch up with what's going on here, Zan. So peep it out. We've got what appears to be a very well developed board state. I'm looking at a Rest in Peace on the other side of the table here, and this is somewhat tricky.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a really tough position. I mean, this is 3 forces on one side, one of them being Force of Negation. So, I mean, you can actually just hard cast that, and then you have a really fast clock. So, this board state honestly looks super scary.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, right? And like the way that this, like, if we just get to untap here now, obviously, like the rest in peace is going to do a good job at shutting down this Dreadhorde Arcanist. Means that you're not going to be able to draw any extra cards off of it, any extra damage off lightning bolts and whatnot. But I just think that like this kind of aggressive start, like it's just like what 2 combat steps, and you've got a multitude of removal spells already covered here. I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. Let's say your opponent plays something like a Swords to Plowshares on your Delver of Secrets, right? Do you Force of Will that card?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it represents 2 attack steps of winning. Right? Like you just need to attack twice and you win the game. Your opponent's at 12. Delver represents 2 whole turns. So to me, I think that's huge, right? There's a big difference between attacking for 3 and attacking for 6. So to me, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna snap Force that. Hopefully, I get to untap and use this Force of Negation to try to tempo my way into the last 6 points of damage.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays, like the way Delver is built, you just sort of see each card is sort of like the Rug Delver deck really tries to play less like a Delver deck and more like a mid-range deck here, and it's easy to forget that like the roots of Delver of Secrets, right, where you're actually just trying to like actually like clock at your opponent very fast and have that disruption, which means you have to make some plays that would necessarily put you behind in certain situations, but you'll be able to push through the last few points of damage. So this is reminiscent of that, like the strategies of old, where you put a lot onto play here. You have an overwhelming creature presence, and then if your opponent tries to interact with you with cards like Swords to Plowshares and whatnot, then you just Dima do it to him with all these like interactive spells like Force of Negation, Force of Will, Spell Pierce, all those sort of things here. And so yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how it progresses.
Yeah, so I mean, the way you gotta think about this Grixis deck is that it's closer to Blue-Red Delver than it is to Rug Delver. So if this was Rug Delver, it's more likely that I have more expensive spells stacked up in my hand, like Oko, and there may be a less of a need to there may be a less of a need to what do you call it, to force there, because you can put out a bigger, badder threat that should be able to finish the game. So in this deck, you've already put all of your threats on the board. Protect them, and you get to win the game. And this is a clear example of protecting half of your opponent's protecting the damage that's going to put your opponent at a really low life total.
Yeah. And look at the development here. So the Swords to Plowshares, like you mentioned, like playing the Force Negation here, I absolutely love this play. This is, this is Martin saying, hey, this is, just saying, I want to be aggressive. I want to make sure that, my damage stays where it is. And I mean, look at this right here. So we're doubling down here. Force of Will going to, counter the Swords to Plowshares. And now we're looking at a lot more. Okay, wait a minute. I'm a little bit confused. But just where did the so the Pyroblast counter? Did I miss something here? Should the Delver Secrets not?
Yeah. So basically, what happened was the Pyroblast was targeting the Delver, not the Force of Negation. So the choice became, do I want to save my young Pyromancer, or do I want to save my Delver? And saving the young Pyromancer is more likely to be better because it makes your board go wider.
That makes a lot of sense there, yeah. Which means that I do think that in the control matchup, Delver of Secrets, while it is a very fast and aggressive threat, is not necessarily it's definitely not the most resilient threat, right? And as our screen refreshes here. I think Young Pyromancer does a really great job at filling that hole, just being able to sort of go wide on a board with very little investment here. You put one creature into play, and then all your other spells are either counter magic, which is trading 1-for-1 with your opponent's spells, or you've got like cantrips that are, not only like replacing themselves, but also filtering your hand along the way. So like Young Pyromancer is one of those ways. The reason I think it's so good is that is because it like passively makes a big board when you're just naturally executing your premier strategy, right? Which is just to like, disrupt, counter, and damage.
No, definitely. I mean, the card is absolutely phenomenal. For a 2-mana threat, you're able to create a super large army. As you can see here, you make your counter spells into 1/1 threats, and yeah, I mean, the card is really really good. I really loved one of my favorite builds of Grixis Delver were the ones that used to play Cabal Therapy, because Cabal Therapy plus Young Pyromancer is such a sweet synergy.
Yeah, I am on the exact opposite side of the table here. I despise that synergy. It was way too busted, especially when you had Gitaxian Probe legal in the format. Like that stuff was just a lot of no nonsense because it was so simple. You just cast a couple spells, like very very low. Oh wait a minute, what is this? Is this a Shark Typhoon for 1?
Beautiful. You can't really interact with this unless you have Stifle in your deck. And goodbye, Young Pyromancer.
Yeah, this is the Young Pyromancer that we worked so hard to protect, and I mean, I feel like at this point now, changing the nature of the game, like you obviously don't necessarily, you wouldn't want to deploy the Dreadhorde Arcanist, right? Because the potential like Supreme Verdict or something like that, but you have to keep the damage coming here. So this is an interesting choice that Martin has chosen not to play the Dreadhorde Arcanist, saying that hey, you finally reached 4 mana. I see white blue X. That means that you might have Supreme Verdict, and I do not want to lose to that card. Like even if we can connect one more time with these 3 creatures, then we're in a really good position to maybe just deal that last point of damage with Dreadhorde Arcanist. But instead, here comes Teferi bouncing a token.
For sure. I think this was a bit of a misstep. I think I would have played the Dreadhorde Arcanist. But if it was like a much more premier threat, like a Delver or a Young Pyromancer, I may have saved it. I think I would have saved it. But in this case, I think that this was not the right move. But casting this Ponder beforehand, very, very, very smart move. I like this a lot. I think knowing if you're gonna be drawing Bolt is pretty huge here.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, being able to pick up a Painful Truths off the top with this Ponder is so insane. Now you get to cast it, you get to draw 3 cards, you gas back up, you have enough resources to keep up with what your opponent's doing, because Captain Farbosa has 4 cards in hand right now, so you're basically even at parity, you're even in resources, and you have the board state, your opponent's at 4 life, and if you draw something like a Lightning Bolt, you are threatening all sorts of lethal. And keeping in mind also that clocks are kind of low here. We see 4 minutes on one side. Is there a Flusterstorm maybe to handle this Painful Truths? Do we brainstorm for a Force of Will? Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather use a Force than let my opponent draw 4 cards here. And bang, there's the Supreme Verdict that Martin's been playing around.
And this Wasteland is still a very good card because getting your opponent off red, that's huge, as well as slowing down their mana development is just really really big here, especially when clock is such a huge factor. Ooh, and a Jace comes
man.
down. This is brutal.
Yeah. This is not what you want to see right after getting Supreme Verdicted with the Rest in Peace on a Dreadhorde Arcanist in play. I mean, the game still has, there's still a chance for anything to happen here. But Pyromancer is not that bad of a pickup here. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good pickup. But you get to look at 6 cards with Jace. Yeah, I mean, this is looking very, very scary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure at this point if I want the Young Pyromancer.
Yeah, I mean, it does turn sideways, and wow, there's a Force of Will here getting rid of this. That means, okay, there's a lot of information you can glean from that, probably that we don't have something like a Plow,
Right.
Swords to Plowshares in hand. So yeah, that means that the Jace is going to bounce the Dreadhorde Arcanist. And like this is a dance that you can dance for a couple turns here. Where you just keep redeploying your lethal threat, and if you don't actually have the removal spell, then Jace is obligated to. Oh wow, okay, all right,
And the song and dance is over.
interesting. Okay, so now there's a Ponder. Jace still has yet to brainstorm, and I mean honestly, like at this point, let's see, the Ponder chooses to shuffle. Okay, good to know. Now Jace is Fate Sealing here. Wow, okay, that's and a card goes on the bottom, and bang, there it is,
my
baby.
God. I know, but time is an issue.
Yeah, that is true. Time is an issue, and that's probably why we see the Jace the Mind Sculptor Fate Seal uptick here. Where historically, like, or like not historically, but like generally speaking, you'd probably end up just using like Jace to brainstorm, draw like 70 billion cards here, sort of get ahead. Instead, we're gonna see the Jace tick up one more time here, going all the way up to 6, and yep.
Yeah, I mean, this game is still gonna be really close. I mean, 1 minute is, I mean, how many time? 2 minutes and 59 seconds. I mean, this Jace should be able to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Force of Wills and a lot of other stuff is just turned off right now.
Right. Well, you could maybe like hard cast the Force of Will. Oh no, you can't. Never mind. There's only 4 lands and play the Wasteland. Took care of the volcanic island. On this board state, though, I think you're absolutely forced to jam this young Pyromancer here. And like, yeah, I mean the Jace is going to convert into a 1/1 here. That should be good enough. You can still, and that's lethal. So the Jace is now obligated to downtick on the next turn instead. But also wanted to keep something in mind, right, Zen? Which is what happens. So the game plan right now is, what would you describe the game plan as? Right? It's just Jace is going to keep ticking up.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Jace. Yeah, so Jace is just gonna keep ticking up, and then you're just trying to go for Jace Ultimate. But if you're able to find a verdict, then you're able to reset this game
Mm-hmm.
and continue along your merry way. But don't forget, Bolt is very, very live. Bolt is super live.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of want to just see the clutch. Oh God, there's the brainstorm.
God,
Lightning bolt one time. Lightning bolt one time.
Oh, wow. Nutty, 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 nutty.
And this is great, right? Put the land into play in case there's a Flusterstorm. Now you can play around it, and bang! Grixis Delver takes down Jeskai Sharkstill. So
wow, that was a really fun match to watch.
Yeah.
We tuned in for the very clutch lightning bolt. How many times have you seen that in Legacy? For you probably experienced the lightning bolt rather than getting to cast the lightning bolt. Correct?
The worst thing in the world for me is playing Miracles. I have a counterbalance in play. I've got like card draw. I've got like 5 or 6 cards in hand here. I just finished my brainstorm, put something on top, shuffle my deck, and then my opponent goes, all right, gut check you. Top deck, lightning bolt. And I'm like, it's okay. I got this. Knock on wood. Say counterbalance. You do your thing, right? And then it flips like a 5, and then I die to a lethal lightning bolt, and I'm just like, wow, I cannot believe this happened. Like, how did I let this happen?
It's
like,
always the force of will. It's always the force
it's
of will.
always, yeah, exactly. And I think I agree with a lot of decisions and a lot of the way that specific game played out, right? So when we walked in, we saw that there were multiple creatures in play here. There was a board that was going lethal. We had, the opponent was at 12. We had 6 points of power, multiple Force of Wills here. And, despite being able to put that much aggression into play here, what I really like is the specific instance where we tried to plow the Pyromancer, right? That got countered. And then the Pyroblast came in and bolted or, blew up the Delver of Secrets. I really like that sort of like ability to take your cards and just like mislead the stack sort of deal, because I'm pretty sure the Delver of Secrets I don't know if the Delver of Secrets is going to actually be better or worse than the Pyromancer, but there's definitely a lot of like thinking going on in the back end. Like, okay, look at the stack, Pyroblast needs to go here or there, misdirect with the Swords to Plowshares kind of deal, like sequencing, right? Like, and I think it did pay off. Now, unfortunately, Lightning Bolt is in the deck for a specific reason, and no matter how good you play, like if you get down to 1 life, you are in bolt range, and that's just what happens, unfortunately, a couple times, sometimes, all the time.
Definitely.
Sadness.
And you can also expect that post board that there are less than 4 bolts in the deck, so it probably feels even worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. playing Uro and Oko for life gain. This is one of the real reasons why. But it looks like all the rounds are in now, so just giving you an update here. So we just saw Derek Brandt on Miracles take down James on the Rainbow Depths deck. We just saw Martin Verbeek on Grixis Delver win 2-1. On the other side of the brackets, though, we have Sam Dans on Infect, who we got to watch last week, win their first round, so now they're 2-1. And then we have Justice Wright on 5-color. Oh, is this Depths again? Yeah, Dark Depths beating Curran Delahanty on Elves here. So we've got we still have Dark Depths represented in this top 4. We've got one de facto, I guess, snow control-esque deck. We've got Delver. We've got Infect. I'm pretty excited. If you had to pick one list to win it all from this point, Zan, what's your bet?
Well, my heart supports Infect forever, but if I had to guess which deck was going to win this tournament, I would still put it on the Depths deck, because I think this version of the Depths deck is favored against that version of the Delver deck. Yeah, I'm going to go with Depths.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my gut is, I mean, look, here's the deal, right? I want to say Infect because I know Sam is an insane player, but then I also want to say that Grixis Delver sort of beats Infect, just like historically it's been pretty good, that kind of matchup. You got bolts and pushes and whatnot. So there's a little bit of rock, paper, scissors there, but then I think that, the Dark Depths matchup against the Delver matchup is pretty 50-50 and, could be one way or another. I don't know. That's quite tricky, actually. I'm going to put my money on Sam. I'm just going to go with, I think Sam is maybe like one of the most veteran players with the deck. And, despite there being like a bad matchup, Sam will be able to like flex his way, navigate his way through it and take it all. So we're going to take a quick break, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a couple minutes as we get the next round paired and set up. Get excited, get hyped. Let's go. Bye.
Let's go.
It's Sanzi, fabulous he, miracles guru. All those top eights, no question, he's great down on one knee.
Okay, and welcome back here. Sorry about that song. It's yeah. I may or may not listen to that. Okay, anyways. So what's up, guys? Welcome back here. As we get to our feature match for this round, we're gonna see Martin Verbeek on Grixis Delver, gonna play against Sam Dans on Bant Infect. Now, this is the matchup that I said was gonna be kind of rough for Sam because historically, Grixis Delver has had a good matchup against the all Infect creature. So, you know, Zan, you played a lot of Infect. You've also actually played a lot of Grixis Delver, so perfect. We've got the guru in the house here to teach us what's up. Let's take a look at the first deck list here. The Bant Infect list. Now, we looked at this list earlier, like last week, maybe close to or whatever it is. What do you like about this list? What do you think is good about this list? Talk to me a little bit, and then we'll take a look at the other side.
Yeah, I mean, this list is super, super clean and it's really difficult to play around. So, I mean, the reason why it's super difficult to play around, pretty simple. There's a lot of one-ofs. When you're playing in an open deck list tournament, it's really hard to play around one-ofs, but you still have to respect it. Oftentimes you need to be playing this multiple choice game, trying to figure out what's in your opponent's hand. And if you aren't able to do that, you're going to get got, like we saw earlier with Stifle. So looking at this deck list specifically, I mean, you have a lot more answers to a lot of the crazy threats. So you got Swords to Plowshares, you got Grafdigger's Cage potentially for Arcanist, and then we have a bunch of Veils, which is something I didn't have access to when I used to play Infect against Grixis Shadow. So the Veils are definitely going to be key to bring in against pushes. And then you got Uros in the board as well, which is like a great pivot plan because when all your Blighted Agents and Glistener Elves are dead, you want to just play an Uro and try to get that Uro to beat down. Since this isn't Rug Delver and it's Grixis Delver, what you can expect to see is uh, it not being able to compete against some of these green-blue massive threats. So I think that this matchup, like back in the day, I would say it was like a 60-40 matchup. That's how bad it felt from the Infect side. But I think that this matchup has become closer to a 50-45. I mean 55-45, if not even closer than that, because having access to two Sylvan libraries and two Uros and an Oko post board, plus the not even mentioning the Veils, I think that this is a lot closer than the matchup has historically been.
Okay, well, no time to waste here as we dive into this matchup here, looking at both players' 7-card hands here, and no mulligans off here. I think this is an incredible start as looks like Martin is going to be on the play. Yep, Martin's going to be on the play here with a hand of Preordained, Lightning Bolt, Young Pyromancer, and Daze. Very aggressive. We've got also the mana sources that we need, Bolt to handle maybe like one Infect threat. And then on the other side, we see Sam's hand. Sam's got 2 Infect threats in Glistener Elf and Blighted Agent, and then a pump spell, Invigorate, which I get the feeling that in this matchup, Invigorate's primary purpose might be something along the lines of countering, like a crazy Lightning Bolt.
Definitely. It definitely is. But I mean, one of the boogeymen in this matchup is Daze, plus a threat. So, in fact, not being on the play here, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be a really brutal game.
Yeah, for sure here. And so we're going to see a Preordain on turn 1 here. Preordain is going to put 2 cards on top. And then what is going on here? So we see Misty Rainforest, deploy that Glistener Elf to begin with. Okay, this is a reasonable start here. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty powerful. Daze is going to connect here with the Glistener Elf here. It's going to put Martin on the back pedal just a little bit, but I do agree with this line here. You know, the Infect deck is basically one that requires like multiple pieces to come together, right? You have to have your creatures and then you have to have your pump spells. And if you can take out one half of the equation, then the other part gets stranded, right? And in general, I think it's easier to just get rid of the creatures on the stack, and then the Invigorate doesn't really do anything. The Vines of Vaspo doesn't really do anything here. So all in all, this is a pretty good start. And speaking of pretty good starts, that Ponder just found a Dreadhorde Arcanist, and I think I see a Forcible underneath that as well. So things are
So Dreadhorde Arcanist is one of those engines that in game 1 there's no way to deal with it. So yeah, I mean this game one is uh pretty much over unless an Oko is found.
Now, it's going to be tricky. So, Dreadhorde Arcanist comes down this turn, perhaps, and then you have a Bolt for the Glistener, for the Blighted Agent, maybe another Bolt for the Blighted Agent, and then the Arcanist can, like, buy back Bolts, too. So, this just means that, like, on this board state, you're going to have to probably burn one Invigorate on... Oh, wait, that doesn't even work, right? Because you can play the Scalding turn and
Doesn't
double...
work.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's...
You can just triple bolt. Yep. And since it wasn't countered, this actually might be lethal.
Wait, that's... Scary.
That's lethal. That's lethal.
Wait, what?
Force of Will is that's lethal. So it's Invigorate, become immense, plus the Exalted trigger. That's 11. Then make it 22.
Wait, what? Wait, oh, but there's no way that the Dreadhorde Arcanist doesn't block the Noble Hierarch here, right?
But that means an Invigorate gets the trade with Dreadhorde Arcanist, which is one of the most scariest cards in the matchup. And then you're left with two Infectors in Blighted Agent and Inkmoth Nexus to try to get those last points of damage through, which is not really hard when you have Become Immense and Berserk left over.
Yo, this is giving me mad Grand Prix Columbus vibes again. You know, just want to shout out our sponsor, Cardboard Live here. Fun fact, did you know that Wilson actually top-8'd that Grand Prix in 2016, I think?
Yeah, I was actually there. I saw Wilson top 8. I saw you at the high tables as well. I think we both finished with the same record. If I'm not correct, we both finished X4.
Yeah, something like that. What was more incredible though was that the finals of this that GP was actually, and I love telling this story. You probably heard me say it before.
Yeah.
But it was Clay Spickelmeyer on Infect against Joe Lisette on his classic Legends Miracles list, and Joe is just about to wrap up the finals with a lethal back to basics, tapping down multiple Inkmoth Nexuses. Venser had just bounced. I think it was like a Blighted Agent that couldn't be recast here. All that Clay had on his side of the board was like a lone Noble Hierarch. And I'm not really sure why, but I think we had actually ended up just bouncing the Venser. So there were no blockers. Clay takes the draw for the turn, goes, all right, wait, I got to think about this for a second. Plays one land, the last land, turns the Noble Hierarch sideways and is like, all right, pump, Berserk, 22. And the game just ends on the spot. That's what dictated the end of that Grand Prix, which was so sweet.
Clay is such a good player. I absolutely love it. Berserk is one of the rare ways you can get rid of your opponent's creatures. You can use it as a removal spell, and it's actually the perfect card to get rid of the Arcanist.
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy. I didn't necessarily pick that up here, and we're gonna see the Berserk has actually resolved. So is it like a delayed ability or something like that? Like you cast it now, and then it'll be like at the end of the damage, the Dreadhorde Arcanist dies or something.
Yeah, it's after when the damage happens. It's at the end of the combat step, if I'm correct. Oh, I think it's at the end step actually.
Okay. Yeah. And this is maybe this seems. Is this?
This is
over.
Lethal.
Yeah, this is it. Oh wow! I'm picking up the.
Wow.
That should do it, right? You can become immense the Inkmoth. You can activate, become immense. You have Force of Will for the Lightning Bolt, or you can even use the Invigorate in response here. I think Sam might just have this one covered up in a variety of ways here, but we'll see what they sequence here. I mean, I could see. Oh, just double Invigorate. Okay, that's a pretty good one too, right? That should do it as well.
Yep. This should be game.
And you have the Noble Hierarch here to play through something like a Daze here. Noble Hierarch is so busted in this deck. It's actually just insane.
No, for sure. And this is going to be one of the moments where the bolt comes down, you counter the bolt basically with the Invigorate. And even if the force was there, Sam played it in such a beautiful way that you end up using the Invigorate as a counter spell rather than having to actually use the force.
Yeah. You know what? When I first started playing Legacy, I remember when I was back in Atlanta playing Legacy at Super Games, one of my first decks was Shardless Agent, and when I got paired up against Infect the very first time, I was so high and mighty on my horse thinking wow, this is going to be a buy here, and I just remember getting absolutely blasted on turn 2 and getting so frustrated not playing around like the variety of ways that Infect can actually kill you. And that's something that's really powerful about this deck, is that like if you blink, you will miss it. You will die on the spot, and like think to yourself like, wow, all I had to do was like not play this Delver Secrets, keep it in my hand for my blue card, and then it would have been over. And like in this exact situation, I don't fault Martin for making the play that he made. They're playing the Delver there, right? Like that's certainly like a powerful play. It just so happens that the Brainstorm found exactly what the Infect player needed to sort of like dissect apart not only Martin's hand but also Infect total. So let's get to sideboarding real quick. Talk to me about what you'd bring in this matchup from the Infect side. I'm kind of curious.
I mean, Urrows, Veils, Flusterstorms, Swords, and the Scrubland, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you as well. Bring in all those. I'll bring in the mana sources and all the snowy elements, if you will, and then convert your deck from not necessarily all in Infect, but maybe something more along the lines of, the sort of snow-ish control with the combo finish or whatever. You can like maybe dial down on some of your pump spells here or there. Like cards like Spell Pierce might not be optimal here, and Sylvan Library, for example, your life total is kind of important. So I like what you're talking here. On the other side, we've got the Grixis Delver list by Martin Verbeek here. The sideboard, I like that Vapor Snag.
Yeah, I mean, that Vapor Snag is kind of scary. Really hard card to play around. I mean, you got Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, you got Vapor Snag, you even got Pithing Needle. I think you definitely bring in Pithing Needle to name Inkmoth Nexus. Or you could tag a fetch line if you really need to. Plague Engineer is definitely the crazy destruction spell. Like the card that's just gonna absolutely own the matchup. And then we got Abrades. Those are the cards I'm thinking. I mean, you definitely want to be bringing in the Flusterstorm as well. But honestly, this is really scary for Grixis because Grixis should have won game 1, and not winning game 1 puts this matchup in a much more even position. And I do want to say that after playing Infect for years and even winning in Open and with Modern Infect, I would say the biggest strength of the deck is your opponent not understanding what to evaluate in the matchup. Your opponent's on the back foot from the beginning of the game, and they play very scared. And if they don't find that balance, that's what they're gonna lose to. And I feel like if you replay that game 10 times, like I would say the first time Martin is gonna make a mistake, but the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10 times, he's gonna be able to win the match. But that's not how many chances you get in this tournament. You just get that one chance.
You got to do your homework beforehand, absolutely. And it looks like both players are going to show 7 cards here. I like what I see from Sam's perspective as we go into game 2. Sam's going to be on the draw here. You got Veil of Summer to stop Fourth Wills. 3 different Infect sources, Blighted Agent, double Inkmoth Nexus, and then of course you've got Brainstorm to tie everything together. Now on the other side of the table, we see a lot of red spells here.
Definitely. I've seen many players keep hands like these, and these are not the effective type of hands because you need to be able to play towards your mana as well. That's a huge thing. I always see players keep like 1 land, like 6 removal spells, and that is not the way you're gonna beat Infect. You need to keep pace with them. You gotta put out your own threats, and that's the way you're gonna win the match actually.
Yeah, no second land here from the Grixis Delver side is actually just incredibly unfortunate here because right now we've got all the interaction, but we just need to make sure that we can actually cast it here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe like an aggressive Daze or an aggressive Pyroblast here. Like trading off with something like a Brainstorm. I think Infect is one of the decks that needs their Brainstorms the most, just because of the I guess the cacophonous nature of sometimes not having to piece together like A plus B, like creature plus pump spell. Now obviously, like moving from pre-board to post-board, I kind of envision that Sam's game plan is going to be a lot less about pushing 10 points of damage in one turn and maybe getting like the playing the long con, the long game, right? Where you like, just like nickel and dime your opponent to death. And you sort of see here, like we're playing it super slowly here, doing nothing this turn. Now we're going to cast a Brainstorm. I really, really want to see a Red Blast here. And it looks like that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, Red Blast, you just need to be casting spells at this point because you don't have infinite mana. And just putting cards in your yard just really essential to doing well in this game. And here we're gonna see a Veil, which is kind of a value Veil.
Well, you don't get to draw a card, unfortunately, because no blue spell was cast this turn here. You have to Daze the Veil here for sure, I think, and then that will stop the Red Blast. I feel like if your opponent is willing to, like, trade Veil without generating any value, and that's an unfortunate, just one turn too late kind of deal here on the Daze, but it's still pretty good, I guess, when your opponent is missing a bunch of mana sources, right?
No, for sure, it is pretty good. And the Delver flipping here is actually huge because Inkmoth Nexus seem like one of the primary ways to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, on this situation, I do kind of expect... So here's something interesting that you can tell me, right? When you play your removal spells against Infect, talk to me about when you like playing them best, because there's so many options that you could do, like upkeep, draw step, end step, my turn, your turn, Ved's turn, like any time, right? So like, what would you suggest here if you were in Martin's position? What would you do for this turn cycle?
So I mean, I think you should probably bolt your opponent either now or you should bolt them on your opponent's next end step. If they don't present lethal with Infect, it's most of the time worth it to take it after the fact, because if you're taking 5 Infect, you're still alive. Don't let them bait you into using your bolt spell there. Just keep representing. Don't don't flinch. If you flinch, you will lose. So
Right.
in this spot, I did not like casting a bolt effect right here because it just allowed our opponent to use their extra mana in a very bad way, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were able to use their mana in a perfect world, and then on top of that, they could still activate Inkmoth Nexus. So yeah, I mean, this is a really rough spot. I think there's going. Yeah, I mean, you should just pass the turn. Try to cast a Pyroblast um, on the Blighted Agent. Either you're gonna do it on the upkeep or you're gonna do it on the end step.
Yeah, no reason to wait too long here. Honestly, though, Zan, I think the Chain Lightning uniquely is one of the cards that I wouldn't mind necessarily firing off there. I think the huge bottleneck here is just definitely mana, right? Like, the worst thing that can happen from Martin's perspective, even worse than, like, losing to Infect Shenanigans, is just dying with a bunch of spells in hand, and you're wondering, like, maybe I could have played this game differently. I could have done this, and that. I feel like playing the mana out, or just using the spells, using my mana as much as I possibly can. I mean, maybe you could argue that using Lightning Bolt instead of Chain Lightning is a bit better here, but with the specific context of the Inkmoth Nexuses, I can find justification for Martin's play here, but I do think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying, which is that when you're playing against Infect, you need to be very mindful about, like, well, all the tricks and shenanigans and, doodads and whatever, like, potential... That's a nice one. Vapor Snag is a really good one. Not a mana source, but very good one. But yeah, just like all the ways that Infect could randomly kill you here. Like, right? Remember we saw last game where we played Delver of Secrets out to, maybe like attack, and then we just died because we didn't have a blue card for force. That kind of stuff, right?
No, for sure. And like in that last on that last turn, I think I would have considered playing the Blighted Agent first, and then maybe that incentivizes like a Pyroblast or something of the sort, and then try to attack with Inkmoth Nexus. And if they block with Inkmoth Nexus, maybe the Invigorate is worth trading with the Inkmoth Nexus. Not with the Inkmoth Nexus, with the Delver of Secrets.
Yeah, for sure here. And so this is going to be kind of interesting. Lightning Bolt on the end step is going to come down here to tag the Blighted Agent, and I wouldn't be surprised to see something like hard cast Invigorate, deny my opponent of the life gain there. Seems pretty good. Now this is a 5/5. Lightning Bolt does nothing. And this is sort of the game that I was talking about, right? We're not doing anything crazy or explosive here. We're just hitting for 1 point of Infect damage a turn, saying, look, like, I know that postboard... Whoa. Okay.
Whoa.
Gotta stop myself here because this is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty good opportunity to fire off another bolt because your opponent went, "Let me invigorate for all of the mana," which is a clear sign to me. Like, I don't want them to draw another card
Hmm.
before I fire off this bolt. So upkeep might be the optimal spot.
Yeah, for sure here. And look at this. Check it out. Here comes Uro, the Titan of Nature's Wrath here. And, you know, these bolts were looking so good against the primary plan A that Sam had, right? The infect creatures. Like, it's really good against Blighted Agent. It's really good against Inkmoth Nexus. But you know what card Lightning Bolt is not good against, Zan?
Vapor Snag.
No, the answer is Uro, Zan. It's not good against Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. It's very, very bad. Um,
Uh, yeah, I mean, Uro is definitely really good here, but it's kind of face up, and we know that there's multiple wastelands, so Uro might have a difficult time coming down. But Vapor Snag is gonna do a great job against Uro,
yeah,
for
that is
sure.
true. Yeah, Vapor Snag is going to be able to bounce the Uro back here. Now, I think that might be okay. It's really hard to say. This game seems so tricky right now. I guess you could pick up another volcanic island. Okay, cool. There is a Dreadhorde Arcanist in the graveyard that could buy back a red elemental blast for the Uro. There are certainly a number of tools that are still in Martin's disposal here, but I think you know, I do like the sort of like diversification that we're seeing where you have not you're sort of like delinearizing your deck. I just made that word up. And now you've got, you know, Uro, you've got Oko, you've got Swords to Plowshares, you've got game plans, right? Like also keeping in mind here that, you know, the Savannah is still like sneakily hidden in the deck here, but it brings tension, right? Because look at this, the Wasteland now, you have to decide, am I going to try and stop the Uro or am I going to try and tag the Inkmoth Nexuses? Like so much could potentially go wrong that it's tricky and this is a money move right here.
That is a really good draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Swords to Plowshares has something to say about the Dreadhorde Arcanist for sure, right? Dreadhorde is just such a stupid, silly, broken, busted card. It is so good.
Yeah, I mean, Dreadhorde here would make things so much more difficult. It would potentially end the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now the swords basically deals with all of the problems. Now you can probably see that there's a Vapor Snag that's going to be cast on this Uro.
Whoa, dang. Ethical questions, Ann. Hear me out. What if we Vapor Snag the Dreadhorde Arcanist? Do you think the Dreadhorde Arcanist is strong enough to Vapor Snag to protect?
It's close. I would have done it at the end of turn because that means I can next turn go like Brazen Borrower into another Dreadhorde Arcanist. But now we're kind of at a really weird spot where you could still die to like a Become Immense.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just have to balance so many different things. But a Brainstorm can get you out of a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think this Uro needs to be bounced and needs to be reset in order for Martin to still have a chance, because that card advantage in a deck like Infect, you don't know what's gonna happen. You're gonna die so quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, like, let's also one thing that a sweet interaction that I had certainly glossed over was when we bought back the Uro from the graveyard, when it escaped it from its chains. We actually drew a copy of Inkmoth Nexus, and we were able to put that into play here. Which that's kind of a little sweet interaction here, as a top deck Brainstorm is going to find what Force of Will, Wasteland, and a Verdant Catacombs. Dang.
Definitely, I think I would have Brazen Borrowed on upkeep because I definitely don't want to be gotten by a Force of Will.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that my Infect opponent's likely to keep in at least like 2 forces. So I feel like I would feel a lot safer if this Uro was already bounced. But now we're gonna have kind of a weird interaction where there's Brazen Borrower and a Vapor Snag.
Yeah, it's so tricky here. And like I feel like the tension. This is just like, I think, a very smart, and we're seeing the brilliance of this sideboard plan come together here, where like there's 3 Inkmoth Nexuses, and you have Wastelands, which are really good at stopping Inkmoth Nexus. But then there's this Uro, which you want to be able to stop, right? You probably didn't bring in Surgical Extraction against Infect because that's not what the matchup is about. And like bouncing the Uro, you can only do that so many times, because it just keeps coming back, and it just keeps coming back, and it just keeps coming back. So then like you're incentivized to maybe like Wasteland their tropical islands, but then what do you do about the Infect creatures? And like there's so much like back and forth here, and wow, take a look at this. How do you feel about that decision?
I mean, I think you're supposed to start off with the Vapor Snag first.
Okay.
And this is a huge punish because that that Brazen Bar could have been your avenue to start actually attacking.
Right. Yeah, keeping in mind here that Sam is actually at a very healthy 25 life here, it's going to be kind of hard to disassemble that with the Lonesome Insectile Aberration, right? Because even if you attack, let's just say that there isn't an Uro in play, right? So just humor me, okay? There's no Uro in play. Delver attacks for 3 points of damage, bringing down, Fenris Cloud to 21. Then triple Inkmoth Nexus activates, and Glistener Elf all come in for like so much damage. And as soon as I say that, we're just like, okay, well, hello, friend, Dreadhorde Arcanist.
Hello, Dreadhorde Arcanist, which is the card that gets you out of the situation pretty much every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And wow. Okay.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think it's really important to get rid of the white source because you want your Dreadhorde Arcanist to stick.
I agree. Now this is kind of interesting. You could do like a mid combat Wasteland. You go from floating one to another, and then, but it looks like we're just gonna go after the 2 tropical islands now. There's still. See, even if you tag the Savannas, there's still copies of Noble Hierarch in the deck that you can play to.
Of course, but that becomes a 2-part step, right? And it increases your chance of the Dreadhorde Arcanist staying alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is kind of a really scary spot.
Okay, so let's see what the top deck is here from Martin as we pick up a Polluted Delta. That's not exactly what we're looking for. Now, this is actually something that I had not thought about, right? But like, imagine if the Glistener Elf actually blocks the Dreadhorde Arcanist. That actually shuts the Dreadhorde Arcanist down, right?
Yeah, for the rest of the game. So I mean, in this spot, you're likely to deal with the Glistener Elf.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going to see.
And if I was in Sam's spot, I would definitely take out the Inkmoth Nexus to try and block, because if that Dreadhorde Arcanist is shut down moving forward, that's insane. The Glistener Elf didn't even mean anything to me.
Yeah. I mean, so Dreadhorde here is still going to get a 2-for-1, but like you still have these Inkmoth Nexuses that are in play, and.
Wow. And I mean, Sam has navigated himself into a great spot. 1 pump spell away from being able to deal lethal. And the Dreadhorde Arcanist on the other side is completely turned off.
Yeah, I have to commend Sam here for sort of identifying that these excess Inkmoth Nexuses are just not really, relevant to the board state, because like the Wastelands are gone, the bolts are slowly going away here, and now you get to very aggressively attack with this Inkmoth Nexus, pump up with your not freshly drawn Invigorate, but you have a scale up that you did draw, and like there's a lot of things going on here. This Lightning Bolt just a turn too late, as the Dreadhorde Arcanist now can only sit back.
Yep, and this was a game where Martin had played like 6 or like 4 or 5 bolt effects. Remember that at the beginning of the game there were like 2 Pyroblasts, just 1 land, and even though all the lands were drawn and Arcanists were played and all of these things happened, this sideboard game plan just panned out perfectly.
Yeah.
Right?
We literally top decked the Lightning Bolt on this board state, Zan, which is the best draw we could have had. And we're still getting blown to smithereens here by this Uro. So like, I'm I don't even have words for this situation. Like, this was like very well done, and I'm very excited to see sort of like, this is what happens when you devote yourself to an archetype and legacy, right? You've figured out, you've done the homework, you've done the research, you know what's good, you know how it works, like, and this is the payoff. When it matters, you're going to win because of these sort of decisions, right? This is one step closer to winning that first prize of $100, right? Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, micro decisions matter in this tournament, and I mean, Sam is definitely demonstrating why Bant Infect deserves to be here.
Now, on a side note, we did top deck another Dreadhorde Arcanist, but at this point, I think the Infect board state has just like snowballed a bit too far. Just too many things in play here. Double Ink Moth, double Blighted Agent, and then even an Uro, and like we have crop rotation to make a lethal Pendelhaven if we need to here. Like, you need like
It's 1 point off. Yeah, I mean, it's over.
You literally have to like jump into another timeline and pull out Malira to win this game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see another way. Yeah, this is the demonic tutor challenge now.
Malira doesn't even do anything. You're gonna just win on regular damage. Right now, there's a race to see, can I kill him with regular damage first or with Infect?
Oh yeah, I thought you were talking about regular damage from Martin's side, and then I noticed that Fenris Cloud was at 35 life. What the heck?
Yeah, regular damage is not winning. That Delver never attacked. It was a defensive unit from turn 1.
But it couldn't afford to attack. I mean, if you look at the beginning of the match, right, it was kind of tragic because like Martin had so many good interactive spells and just never found that second red source. And that's one of the curses of Delver is that your spells are so potent, but you do greed out, by cutting some number of mana sources here and there. And like you do have Brainstorms and Ponders to smooth out your draws, but that doesn't always work. Like there is a downside when you are cutting lands and things like that. And we're going to see Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to take like a desperation attack here. Is going to try to buy back a Brainstorm. See, maybe there's something I can get here, but yeah, I'm okay. Needle, are we still alive for a turn? Yes? No, we're not live. Okay, never mind.
No, we're not live. At least I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing.
Yeah, because if we had like one extra card, we may have been able to play the Braid and then Needle the Nexuses and then, kill one of the Blighted Agents, draw into another something removal spell for the other Blighted Agent, and then if we could like I'm already painting a picture that requires way too much good stuff to happen on here. So, I'm pretty impressed by it. I think Sam Dans did a very good job here, showing why he is the Infect master. Yeah, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I think Sam is better at Infect than Tom Ross. I mean, Tom is a really good player here, but legacy Infect. Okay, yeah, this is my opinion. I've seen Sam play and I've played it. You're looking at me like, wow, you never played against Tom, have you?
Does Sam have a finals appearance with Infect?
Yes, actually, Sam is going to have a finals appearance with Infect right now in the next round.
No, I'm talking about the GP.
No, I mean by virtue of did Tom make the finals of a Legacy Grand Prix?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he lost to BBD in the finals who was playing Miracles.
Oh wow.
I think this was 2015 or 14. I think it's 2015. And then he also won 2 invitationals back to back with Infect and got an Infect token.
Okay. You know what? Tom is a great player. I'm not taking anything away from the big boss Ross here. I'm just saying that Sam is really talented with this deck, and if I had to pick one person to put my money behind, it would be him. But that's just my personal opinion. It's my personal opinion. I've seen too much. Although the one time I did play against Tom Ross, I got absolutely destroyed. Like he's like doing that weird, like just like his mannerisms at the table where he's like super introspective and like pensive, and he's like thinking to himself, and then like he's like, all right, noble hierarch, and then he just like looks up at you, stares into your soul, and is like, okay, you're dead, and then proceeds to kill you. Right? Like Tom's got special Tom powers. I'm not gonna take that away from him, but I think Sam is very talented. That being said.
I just have to say, I think that's kind of on you because I'm pretty positive I have a super positive record against Tom, but not to take away anything from Tom.
All right. See, that's another fact. Do you have a super positive record against Sam? Didn't think so. But moving forward here, it does look like Derek Brent on the Miracles list is going to be our finals competitor here against Sam. So we're going to go ahead and set that matchup really quickly. Friends, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a little bit. We'll see who is the winner of our next latest Legacy Octagon. Who's going to take home that prize of $100? We'll be right back. Where's the button?
Peace.
Now try your best, but alas, no way he's not kicking your ass. So come see the legend play Teferi. It's on Z, mighty is he, playing his mentor. Generate 10 little white men with laughable ease. He battled against all the boards. He faced Marilage with his swords. He beat Merfolk and their lores. Why, it's on Z.
Yo, what up? We back. We back with the finals now. And we've got one interesting matchup here. It's going to be Infect at Sam Dan's hands, we saw earlier. And even earlier, we also got to see Derek Brent on Miracles, piloting against James, from the Cardboard Live team. Derek did take the match 2-0 and now made it all the way down to the finals here. So both players are going to be battling it out here for a decent chunk of change, but they also get another prize, Zan. What are the prizes for first and second place on these octagons again? Remind me real quick.
Yep. So first place gets $100 and re-entry into another octagon event, and second place either takes $20 or another re-entry.
Awesome, yeah. And so this sort of like puts down our system where if you enter one event, and you win, that's your bankroll. Keep going, baby. The sky is the limit. You just win as many trophies as you possibly can, as many, stacks or whatever. And between you and me, okay, Zan, I need you to close your ears real quick, but these trophies will matter at some point, and mum's the word, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I do want to take a look at some of the deck lists that we got going on in the finals here. So we did take a look at Sam's list, pretty thoroughly here. Now we're going to go back and we're going to check out not Sam's list. We're going to check out this list here, which is the Miracles list that we saw earlier. And honestly, I'm pretty ecstatic about this list. Like I've been playing this list in leagues when I was testing for one of the bigger events. I had a 15-0 sweep and it was incredible, right?
Yeah.
And I think this list honestly is going to be favored in this matchup. You've got 4 Swords to Plowshares. You've got all your Ice Fangs to do blocking duty. The clutch copy of Teferi. Multiple card draw spells in Sylvan Library and Jace the Mind Sculptor. Mystic Sanctuary to buy back your critical spells. Honestly, I think this is it's going to be it's going to be based on who plays well here. But if you know both players play perfectly, I got to say that the cards, it looks like they would just go to they would just go to this miracles list right here.
Really? I was thinking that Infect would have, just like we feel that Depths is favored in this matchup. Depths versus Miracles is favored. I think that the same is true with Infect and this deck. I mean, Sylvan Library is on the other side as well, and the clock is really fast.
Okay, and it looks like both players are going to be on a mulligan to 6 cards here. Fenris Cloud mulliganed a no-land hand, and Derek, I think I saw like Force Negation, a couple Ponders, and a Terminus, and Derek says that's not good enough in this matchup here. We're going to see Tropical Island passed back, Flooded Strand for the turn here, and this Carpet of Flowers looks like it's going to be actually insane, in the next few turns here. But, Sam does have the most important threat in his hand right now. That's 2 copies of Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at these hands right now, Sam is in a really rough situation. The Wasteland is not going to have that big of an effect because at the end of the day, you got to play your own islands, and if you're not playing your islands, then
what are you even doing, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what are you even doing? And then the Carpet of Flowers it's just gonna take over. But I mean, here we see Daze is gonna play a pretty essential role, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this Daze was an insane top deck here, lining up very well against the Sylvan Library, and this is an aggressive line where we're gonna Force of Will to protect the Sylvan Library, and I absolutely love it.
I love it as well because right now you need to find more lands, and this is the best way to do it.
For sure. And you want to know the other thing, Zan, is that in a matchup like Infect, where your opponents are attacking you with Infect damage, you got all the life to pay with the Sylvan Library. I'd really love to see Derek just draw a bunch of cards here off the top and then pay 8 life. It looks like we're only going to pick up a Brainstorm here for now. There's no green mana, no blue mana, for the Carpet of Flowers to pick up, so we can't actually play any of our spells here, which is why, and here comes the other Inkmoth next. This is kind of cheeky. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. Sam playing no islands right now, and it's really affecting Derek. But every single turn, it's another additional card that's being seen, and maybe Derek can find a land.
Yeah, I mean, definitely finding another mana source is going to be absolutely critical here. I kind of want to see Derek pay some life here to dig deeper with the Sylvan Library, because even if you're not able to necessarily use those cards that are on top of your deck here, the life points just don't matter in any capacity, right? I mean, now that the Noble Hierarch is down, yes, maybe you could make an argument, but before, like when there was just Inkmoth Nexus as attacking, it's not that big a deal, and you just absolutely have to find that mana source here. So We'll see what happens here.
Oh, wow.
Sylvan Library, okay. There we go. Paying 4 and 4 twice now, picking up Force Negation and Swords to Plowshares, and that's some hot business right there.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely some really powerful cards picked up. Honestly, one of the best Sylvan Libraries I've ever seen. And now the Infect player has a lot of tools, so if there's some missteps made, we could see Sam end up winning here. So this is a really tempting force. I honestly would love to pull the trigger on this force.
Wow, yeah, and it looks like Sam agrees with you here. Ice Fang Coatl can get Death Touch in some capacity. I think the real scary part for me was that we actually did the same thing that happened in the last match, where we deploy one of our critical blue cards that pitch to forces, and in this situation, it looks like we're not as punished, but oh my goodness, that's a really, really good draw.
That's a fantastic draw. And I mean, this looks like it's really close to game. It's really close.
No, that's the game itself, right? You plow the Inkmoth Nexus, then you daze the plow, force the daze, vines the something. Oh, I guess you don't get to kick the vines.
Vines doesn't work. Yeah, Vines doesn't work. You can only do it. You can only invigorate, which is 6 damage.
Okay.
Vine does work in the sense that Vines does work in the sense that it
Gives hexproof or whatever.
yeah that it gives hexproof. But it doesn't pump.
Okay. Oh, don't pitch the brainstorm. Pitch the force. Pitch the force. Pitch the force. Yes, force pitching the force here means that we can use the brainstorm, put the terminus back on top of our deck. Maybe we can cycle into something crazy like an Ice Fang Coatl or something. But yeah, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a huge blowout from the Infect side.
And don't forget that there's no more island on the field, so less mana for
Carpet of Flowers, exactly, yeah. So, Sylvan Library now going to pay 8 once again here. This means that we're
searching. This brainstorm has got to do a lot of work here because both of these Inkmoth Nexuses are lethal, and not another brainstorm is found.
Dang, I was going to say finding that Swords to Plowshares was a money move, but maybe not that money of a move because, oh, wait, but we can't. Oh, no, we can't activate both of the Inkmoth Nexuses, okay, because of the Tropical Island?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be really close. I think that the best thing that Derek can do is the bluff that they have a way to brainstorm into a terminus, and hopefully Sam draws something that incentivizes him to just attack with just one Inkmoth Nexus instead of 2.
Like a Brainstorm, for example, right? Brainstorm is a really, really solid draw here, and it seems like Sam says I'm able to identify what is important in this matchup, and it's just getting you dead in these kind of spots here. And if you have it, you have it. The blowout is what it is. Now let's talk about sideboarding really quickly, Zan. What do you like in this matchup from the Infect side?
I mean, from the Infect side, you do like the fair cards. Uro is still one of those threats that can be problematic, especially when you're wasting all of your swords on other things. So I can totally imagine some number of these Uros coming in, Veils definitely coming in, Flusterstorm definitely coming in, and yeah, the rest seems like it's unnecessary.
Yep. I think I agree with you here. On the other side of the table, we see Volcanic Island, more Carpet of Flowers, the Deafening Silence, the Rest in Peace, the Blood Moon, the Veil, the Surgical, some Blasts, Wilts, another Terminus, and I think what will be the all-star in the sideboard in this matchup is that one of is a Staticaster, baby. Let's do it to it. That one's definitely coming in. I'd love to see the Terminus come in as well, as alongside the Wilts, right? Wilt will be able to answer the Artifact Infect creature in Inkmoth Nexus. Some number of Red Blast can come in as well, because, you want to be able to pop Blighted Agents, fight over Brainstorms and Force of Wills. And then finally, I feel like the Carpet of Flowers should come in, despite how mediocre it looked in this game here. I think once Carpet is in play, it's a little bit trickier because then your opponent can play around it. But if you were able to play it on turn 3, maybe turn 4 after your opponent has played 2 Tropical Islands, then it's going to do its job for sure. You know what I mean? But Sam definitely did make the Carpet look very medium in that game. Might be able to do it again.
No, definitely. I think the Carpet, Sam just winning that game just showed his prowess with the deck, his masterfulness. He played it so spectacularly. At the beginning of the game, if you made me look at both of those opening hands, I would say Sam was likely to lose. I would say it's 10% chance that Sam is likely to win this match from this spot. But Carpet of Flowers was made to look like a fool.
Yeah, and we're also, one thing that I'm kind of curious about is whether you bring in the Blood Moon or not. Riddle me this, Zen. I walk into a bar with a Blood Moon and I see 2 Carpet of Flowers in play on the other side. Does the Carpet of Flowers generate any mana if Blood Moon is in play from Tropical Island?
The Carpet of Flower walks out the bar.
Very okay. Apt answer. Yeah, I think that is how it works, and I'm gonna guess that if we do see Blood Moon come into play here from the other side, that we won't see any Carpet of Flowers here. So Sam is up 1-0 here in the finals, playing for match point, tournament point here, $100 on the line. It looks like Derek's hand is much better this time with Arkham's Astrolabe, Ice-Fang Coatl, Force Will, and a Brainstorm. And then Sam, on the other hand, has 1, 2, 3 Glistener Elves.
That's ridiculous. And Glistener Elf is a great threat in this matchup in the sense that it doesn't cost very much mana, and your opponent doesn't have that many blockers, right? Like Ice-Fang Coatl is a good blocker, but like it's like it blocking a Inkmoth Nexus is really different than blocking a Glistener Elf, because everything should be able to block Glistener Elf, but there's not a high number of creature density in the Miracles deck.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, on this board state, I feel like, Derek's got good chances here. Noble Hierarch going to come down. That will give the Glistener Elf +1/+1, but Ice-Fang Coatl with Death Touch does not care, and I almost wonder if we're going to see another Force of Will pitching Brainstorm on the Ice-Fang Coatl like we saw in the earlier game.
I think not. I think that this is a good opportunity to just trade this Glistener Elf with Ice-Fang Coatl, and then just playing another Glistener Elf.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me too here. And now the Ice-Fang Coatl will trade with the Glistener Elf. You just play another elf for the next turn, and this is sort of that nickel and dime strategy that we were talking about, right? That where your plan is not necessarily to get 10 points of damage into play in one turn here. Maybe you fire off like an Invigorate, a Lonesome Invigorate when you can get it to connect, and just have like a heaping large sum of infect damage somewhere on the other side of the table. But if you can just attack 10 times, but have control over what's going on, have a game plan for the next removal spell, and the next 3 removal spells after that, you are so happy from the infect side.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be an uphill battle, but if the infect side starts to draw some of its sideboard threats, then the nickeling and diming will get punished.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I do want to say is that I absolutely love not using the Force of Will there from Sam's side, because a card like Brainstorm, I mentioned this earlier, is extremely important in an infect deck where what is important changes so quickly, so rapidly from turn to turn to turn, right? So like earlier on turn 1, we had 3 Glistener Elves, so having creatures wasn't actually that important. Now, we're a couple turns later, we are out of threats, and protecting this Glistener Elf with the Force of Will matters, so we want to be able to sculpt our hand here and make sure that we have everything, and this is the blowout that's happening on the screen. Cover your eyes, keep the children away.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Veil of Summer, when it connects, especially on a Force of Will, it's just the nastiest thing. And, there was a Force of Will trading with another, 2-card counterspell, but this is exactly one of the reasons why I'm so afraid of the Snow matchup, is because you got all these cheap counters. You have so much relevant removal here. Ice-Fang Coatl is putting on a great show right now. And this Brainstorm is finding exactly what you want. More gas in the form of Sylvan Library and Swords to Plowshares. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, this spot is certainly really, really bad for Sam, and I would say the percent chance you're likely to win after a Veil counters a Force of Will is so ridiculously high, not even mentioning that there were more spells on the stack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's probably close to somewhere 80 to 90%, it feels like, because it's such a dramatic amount of card swing, right? Like, you pitch 2 cards to play the Force. On top of that, the spell that you were trying to counter resolves, and you draw an extra card, and you didn't spend very much mana to do all of those things, so you can continue to do more things and take back the tempo.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's take a look at the board state once again here. We see the second Noble Hierarch going to come into play. We fetched up the Savannah, all good. There is a copy of Surgical Extraction. Now, that is interesting. I'm kind of curious to see how this gets leveraged here. But given the board state, honestly, the Sylvan Library is not even bad here. Paying a bunch of life. I mean, the Noble Hierarchs can pressure you, but you do have the Ice-Fang Coatl, and drawing into the Inkmoth Nexus is pretty good here. Forces a couple more resources to get trades. I like this. Be relentless in how you use your... Okay. Never mind.
That has to be game over.
Yeah. Yeah, and look at this. You know what? Not only like we have the blowout card, we even get perfect information on how to approach the setup here, right? We can surgical here. We see the berserk, plow the noble hierarch, make sure they can't draw anything else here, slam that blood moon, and then I literally think there might be one basic forest in the list, but because I'm seeing the Savannah, I wonder if I don't see any basics in the postboard configuration. I'm giving you the journalist perspective here. No forest, no nothing. I might be wrong about it though. Who knows? But yeah, I think the basic in the deck got upgraded to a Savannah, and that's just going to be a massive blowout now.
No, definitely. I think that this spot is is super scary. I mean, I think you could even just start off with the swords and then just play the blood moon and just call it game.
Yeah, wrap it up. This is it. This is I really love this Blood Moon art, by the way. Yeah, and I see Sam is just hovering over the concede button there. This Blood Moon art is actually just so freaking cool. Do you know where this comes from? Jim
I
Pavlik?
actually that's such a sick blood moon. I
It's
freaking love it.
gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah.
Now from this point on, I guess it's just a matter of going through the motions and figuring out like how Derek wants to end the game. You probably want to do it without showing as much information as possible. I'm pretty sure that since deck lists are open, it actually doesn't matter too much. But getting any intel on how your opponent's sideboarding, like knowing about the Blood Moon now, means that you probably don't want to keep the Savannah in, or maybe that you do want at least one basic somewhere in the game 3 60 cards. We're gonna see a lot of draw go
Yeah, I mean,
here.
more information, the better. So yeah, I completely agree with Sam. Play it out, play to all of your outs, figure out exactly what your opponent's doing. It's the finals. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna take every little extra step in the finals, when are you gonna take it?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
kudos to Sam.
Yeah. And at this point, now that we have the Oko in play, I expect Derek to never play another single card. Just keep making Elks and passing the turn here. Yeah, like it should just be over. And I like this. I like not elking the Astrolabe here. It does convert to damage, but you still have a 3-turn clock one way or another, and this lets you keep up the Astrolabe just to fix your mana in case you need white mana for some reason. I don't know. You don't actually have access to it with the Blood Moon right now, so. Ooh,
For sure.
that's something I hadn't thought about. Do we see Force of Vigors in Sam's list? That might be a potential out.
Yeah, but I doubt a Force of Vigor was brought in. Maybe. I mean, it could tag Astrolabe and Sylvan Library. I'm pretty sure we saw one or two Force of Vigors.
Okay.
So that is a potential out.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look once again at the Miracles deck list here. So I can confirm that we saw the Blood Moon. I'm also looking at the way that Derek specifically has sideboarded. I see 3 copies of Pyroblast, 1 copy of Veil of Summer, just the Lonesome Surgical Extraction. Oh, that's so interesting. We actually also brought in the Deafening Silence just to stop any potential possibilities of combo here. I actually don't really like bringing this card in this matchup.
I don't either. I think that it also affects you in a very negative way. And they can just beat you down with creatures. So I don't think that's like the type of effect that you actually want.
Mm.
I can respect the surgical because it deals with a problematic card in Uro, as well as it's still doable because you're gonna gain more card advantage than your opponent anyways. So other than that, I'm ready to watch game 3 of this matchup. I think that the play is really essential, and if in fact is able to keep a seven card hand, that it is going to favor Sam.
Yeah, and here we are now in the final game of this week's Legacy Octagon here. Both players at it. $100 on the line here. Re-entry, a trophy. I'm looking at this hand from Sam's side and I'm saying, oh my goodness, if only we had a mana source. But then on the other side of the table, like, okay, so it looks like Fenris Cloud is going to mulligan to 5. Derek is on a mulligan now to 6. And this hand is certainly much better than what we were looking at before from both sides. So it's going to be a slugfest. That much is for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a really close one.
Both players, well, actually, you know what? I think Sam's pretty good on lands here, but Derek definitely does need to find another mana source, and that's a clutch one right there. Noble Hierarch is going to be pretty good. You know, there are a couple sorts of plowshares here, but if the game plan is, and look at that, brought that forest back in, get it into play ASAP, you will not, get me the first time, shame on me. Wait, shame on you? Second time, shame on
Oh
me?
my god, and it's a brainstorm lock.
Uh-oh.
That is absolutely insane. But guess what? You can just put Terminus back on your deck and actually just cast it next turn.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that could be super brutal.
What do we put back here? I'm kind of curious. We're going to put Oko underneath the Terminus, saying that I want to pitch the Teferi to the Force of Will here to protect my Wrath next turn, and this is going to be the ultimate turn. I want to see if Sam's got that mindset. Can you play around exactly what's about to happen? I mean, okay, well, I too would also put the Blighted Agent into play. It would take some insane amount of discipline to like not set yourself up for lethal, not this turn, but the next. If Sam can find that daze, because we're firing this brainstorm off, baby.
Yeah. I love this brainstorm. Days.
Dealer one time.
Days.
Okay, well, yeah, we tried. We tried.
I mean, it's still a Sylvan Library.
Yeah, so Sylvan Library is still going to be pretty good here. I also forgot, Zan, that there's a Force of Will in Derek's hand. I got so hyped up about the potential that I forgot that, you know, Derek's got the bases covered here. What Derek doesn't have covered is mana sources. Force of Will going to come down, take care of Sylvan Library. What's next?
And this is rough. If there's a land here, then oh my god, the game has completely turned.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance now. There's a chance.
I mean, after that Force of Will, that's kind of scary.
Okay. Oh, there's Force of Vigor for Blood Moon too.
My
Hey, I like that though. Respect.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be a real back and forth now.
Dang, if there were only 2 Astrolabes in play, I would wondered if it was worth it to like Force of Vigor 2 Astrolabes, but probably not. That's probably just me dreaming to myself about nothingness. And yeah, just peel the land right off the top. It's Oko time. Oh no, just kidding. It's Blood Moon time. Actually, what is it time for?
I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
Both of them have their merits.
There it is. There's the Blood Moon once again.
I wonder what's gonna happen. I mean, I think that the Force of Vigor is coming down, but I wonder how it's gonna come down.
I don't know. It just feels like you still have the Noble Hierarch, but this is such a tough one because the Blood Moon is really good against your best card, right? Your best card is literally Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah.
Okay. There it is.
Oh my god, and you just snap force that. Wow.
Yeah, this is looking dark for the Infect player. I mean, you still have...
I mean, I think Sam can still win this game.
It's going to be very tough.
I mean, that's a scary draw.
The Jace the Mind Sculptor? Oh yeah, you bet. Yeah, okay, so on this state, okay, we're gonna go after the Noble Hierarch. I have to imagine that you fire off the vines to protect it because you want to have your mana intact. And unfortunately, what Sam doesn't know is that there's actually 2 copies of Swords to Plowshares here, so we'll see what the draw is. And yeah, I mean,
that should be game.
Look, all I'm saying is it's not even Tom Ross couldn't win from this board state. You know what I'm saying?
No, of course. But Sam played beautifully. Respect. But thank you for playing. You've been eliminated.
Goodbye.
And congrats to Derek.
Yeah, Derek taking the pod here, winning that trophy, which is going to be used for something important later, and also winning $100 and re-entry into a future event. So congratulations, Derek. Playing, the updated Miracles list with Zan. You said you had a huge affinity for it. You said you really liked it because it looked like a lot like what is it? Mark Eric Vokes list. Remember that event that you were watching? We were watching, and like Mark absolutely destroyed it. Something invitational. Unz me. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that deck, and it's continued to trend upwards. And here it is again, winning another one events.
Yeah. So on our end, I think that might be it for the day here. We're gonna give you guys an updated schedule for what is it called? Next week's
Octagon events?
next week's Octagon
We're,
events, right?
we're most likely not gonna be. We're most likely gonna be taking next week off and coming back. Not next week, but the week after, because kind of want to have a break for Christmas time and give people some time off. But we're definitely gonna be coming back strong in the later half of December. So thank you for supporting us. Thank you Cardboard Live for sponsoring us and working with us. Uh, if you guys are watching from the Cardboard Live side, that is absolutely awesome. We have some really cool things in the works there. Wouldn't it be cool if you guys could do some cool interactive stuff with um, with these events? Like if you're watching, do a prediction type of deal. It would some foreshadowing, but we're super excited to do more projects with Cardboard Live. So thank you, James, for playing, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Please click the raid button. We're definitely going to be raiding someone else in the Magic community.
Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna go
Yeah.
live right now, Zan. So just like go one way or the other, get
Oh.
my daily stream out of the day today's December 18th.
I'll be raiding you then.
Okay, cool. Let me just go live real quick and then I'll figure it out. But otherwise, we'll see you guys in just a sec. So see,
right.
don't go anywhere.
Nice.
Are you a top tapper?
I mean, I messed up already because I've never played this, but it's fine, right?